Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this tumbler using 4 different types of techniques. So if you want to see how I did it, keep watching. Okay, so to create this tumbler, these are the materials that I used. Everything will be listed in the description bar. To get started, you will need to prep your tumbler. So I use a sanding block and I go around and sand my tumbler to remove the shiny coating. This will help your paint stick and also the resin to adhere. You want to then go ahead and base coat your tumbler. I use Rust-Oleum primer in a flat white. You want to continue to go all the way around your cup until you have even coverage. Now it's time for you to choose your glitter. I chose to make a custom mix by mixing 5 different glitters together for this tumbler. Okay, so all of the glitters that I chose have a whitish iridescent look to them, sometimes a bluish tint. I chose that based upon the water slide that I chose, so you kind of want to have like a theme going so that your tumbler can have like a cohesive look. So technique number 1 is called the epoxy method. This is when you will use the epoxy or resin as the glue that holds your glitter together. So here I am just basically applying the epoxy to the cup. I want to make sure that it's a nice even layer, and I'm gonna let this spin for a while and then I will add my glitter. Okay, so after you've applied your epoxy, you want to place down whatever glitter catcher you use. I just use some regular copy of paper, and then you want to start adding your glitter. I started out with the fine glitter because it spreads the easiest or the fastest through the epoxy, and then I'm going to go in with a medium type of glitter cut, and then I will continue to layer this glitter onto my cup until I like what I see. Okay, so once you are pretty much almost done with your glitter, you want to take the mix that was created and put that on the bottom of the cup, and get ready to let this spin for about 4 hours until it's pretty much cured. And then once it has spun for that amount of time, you want to go ahead and add your layer of epoxy so that all the glitter is sealed underneath. Okay, so once you have applied this layer of epoxy on your tumbler, you want to let this spin. I usually let this spin overnight, but of course you just want to let it spin until it's completely hard. Now it's time to sand your tumbler. I use my sanding block again, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to focus on any rough spots that may not, have been completely smooth with the epoxy. And I'm really going to give this a good sanding. And the reason is when it's time to add my lines, I don't need any bumps or lumps coming through. Okay, so now it's time for technique number 2, which is called the Milky Way. I am going to be using some acrylic paint and then also some mica powder that I found off of Amazon. I will list that in the description bar if you guys want to pick that up. So after I have separated my epoxy into those 2 little cups, I'm going to go ahead and add my mica powder into the resin. just a couple of scoops, and mix that up until I like the consistency. And I'm going to do the same thing with the acrylic paint. For this Milky Way technique, you will need to epoxy your tumbler and make sure that you have a good even layer of epoxy. I waited until my epoxy was a little thick, and I'm just spreading it around just to make sure that it's nice and smooth before I start on my Milky Way. Okay, so now I am going to pick up the acrylic paint mix, and I'm going to apply the resin diagonally on my tumbler. You know, from what I understand, it doesn't have to be any specific pattern. And then I'm going to apply my silver resin mix right next to the white lines. A lot of the tutorials that I have seen, they just go ahead and allow this mix to spin, and the motion of your tumbler moving will create a swirly pattern. But I'm going to use my heat gun to heat up the epoxy and kind of create more of a swirl. You'll just see me here just going back and forth to heat up the epoxy, and the resin will kind of run together to create a swirl pattern that I like. One thing you need to make sure of is that you don't put your heat gun too close to your epoxy. Also, make sure you wear protective gear on your face because epoxy, while heated up, does give off hazardous fumes. So you want to make sure that you're staying safe. There is no perfect pattern. You just kind of want to do this until you like it. And remember, each one of these tumblers that you create will be different. So just get creative with it and have fun. Now it's time to cut your lines. I am using a Cricut Maker to cut out lines, but you could use any cutting device of your choice. You could also choose to cut your lines out any type of thickness that you want. I'm just choosing to cut mine out very thin. Okay, so the Kaleidoscope method is basically taking your thin lines or your lines that you cut out and placing them on your tumbler in triangle shapes. There are so many different ways to do this technique. I would recommend looking at other YouTube tutorials to help give you inspiration on what you would like to do with your tumbler. But here you will see me just continue to put the lines on the tumbler until I am happy with the pattern. I'm gonna go ahead and speed through this to show you guys how I created this pattern on this tumbler. Again, if you guys have any questions about any of the products I used, just hit me up in the comment section. You want to just continue to make triangle lines until you're happy with it, little ones or smaller ones, just creating a really nice kaleidoscope pattern. Whew, okay, so now that you have created all your lines, now it's time for technique number 4, which is the waterslide method. You want to print out your image on waterslide paper, and then you want to seal it with a clear sealer. I use Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and then you want to let it dry. And once dry, you want to go ahead and cut out your image, trying not to cut close to it. However, you could use vinyl as well. Once you place your water slide in your water bath, you will just then let it sit for a little bit to kind of loosen up the adhesive so that you can slide it off and apply it to your tumbler. Okay, so you're going to take your water slide paper and you are going to place it on whatever triangle shape that you like, and then you're going to either take your X-Acto knife or your pair of scissors, and you're going to cut the excess, leaving the water slide paper inside of the triangle. Make sure your X-Acto knife is sharp. As you can see here, mine was kind of dull, so I had a little bit of difficulty cutting some of the triangle shapes, and it took me a little longer. But if you have a sharp X-Acto knife, it shouldn't take you this long. Once you have cut your desired triangle shape, you want to just take a paper towel and kind of push all of the water out of the water slide paper, so that way it can adhere to your tumbler. You want to continue to add the water slide into your desired triangle shape, and I'm going to go ahead and speed through this process so you could see the next step. Okay, time to seal it all in. So you want to get your resin. I waited for mine to be a little thick just so that I could have a better coverage. You want to apply that all over your tumbler, focusing on any spots that you feel need, more resin. And you just want to continue to apply that over your tumbler until you have a nice even coat of resin. Here's a little tip. I use a mini iron sometimes if I have some hard spots, just to kind of like press it down or take off that resin. I'll heat it up and I will literally like scrape off the resin to make it nice and smooth before I do my last layer of epoxy. If you're interested in this little mini iron, I will have it listed and linked in the description bar. Again, you want to take your sanding block and go over and buff out any rough surfaces. I am going to alternate between the little mini iron and my sanding block. I'm going to really try to focus on having a smooth surface. So after this layer, this last layer of epoxy, I do not have to worry about doing any more layers. And you're done. You just need to add your final layer, your final coat of epoxy, and then you are complete. This was such a fun tumbler to make. I really loved combining the different techniques to create something that is very unique. I truly hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And for a list of the materials that I used, you will find that in the description bar. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you consider subscribing to my channel. And please always remember to be strong and courageous. Bye.